Hi, I'm Dr. Kristy Mulkey, and I'm the workshop coordinator for 240 Tutoring. Now, 2020 has been a wild year, and I know some of you, as you're preparing for your certification exams, when you heard there was a new core subjects exam, it just felt like it was getting even crazier. So we started getting lots of questions about what does that new exam look like? So I'm here to answer those questions for you. We're going to do a short little video on what to expect from the EC-6 Core Subjects 391 as we transition away from 291. So I'm going to share my screen with you so we can get started and I can get all of your questions answered. So I'm going to share my screen. That's going to take just a second. Wonderful. All right. So we are looking at that transition from 291 to 391 for core subjects. So this is going to help you understand what's happening with these tests and what you need to expect and which test you're going to take. So let's start by looking at when does this transition occur? 391, the new test, will be available January 1st of 2021. So coming up in the next few months. Now you might be asking yourself, why is there a new test? Well, here's what happened. The state realized that fourth graders were not performing well on reading standardized exams. So they decided to look at teacher preparation for the science of teaching reading. So in order to ensure that teachers were prepared to teach those students reading, they decided to assess it by itself. So what they did was they took the science of teaching reading component out of the core subjects exam and made it its own exam. So now we have the new STR, science of teaching reading exam, and 391 that will go together. So core subjects and STR. Now, let's look at what changed from 291 to 391. Well, if we look at 291, notice it was 5 hours, 5 subject subtests, 267 questions, and computer administered exams. Now, if we look closely, we had English, language, arts, and reading, and the science of teaching reading together in a 1 hour and 45 minute subtest. Now, what they did was they pulled that STR out. Okay, so we still have 5 exams. Now, these minutes and numbers of questions changed, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. If you want to go back and look at the overall framework for 291, here is the link to the Pearson website preparation materials. Now, let's see what it looked like when we move to 391. If we look at 391, it's still a 5-hour exam, still 5 subject subtests. The total number of questions went down. We're now looking at 210, and it's still a computer administered exam. The big difference shown right here is we now just have English, language, arts, and reading all by itself. There's no STR there. I do want to note that all 5 of these subtests, they each account for about 20% of your overall score, from 19 to 21%, and that didn't change from 291 to 391. Now let's break this down a little bit further. Again, if you want to see the full preparation materials, the link is right up here in the corner. If we look specifically at the number of questions and the minutes for each subtest, this is where we see some really big changes that I think you're going to be excited about. So looking at the old 291, when we had ELAR and STR together, we had 105 minutes and 75 questions, which gave us about 1.4 minutes per question. Now, if you look at 391, when we just have ELAR all by itself, we now have 70 minutes. So it's less time, but it's drastically less questions, 30 less questions. So really, our minutes per question went up to 1.56. So that was a 12% increase. Now you're probably thinking, Dr. Mulkey, that's not a lot. Hang on. Look at these other subjects. If you're weak in mathematics or science or social studies, you're about to get excited. So if we look at math, we used to have 60 minutes. We now have more time. We have 70 minutes. And we used to have 47 questions, and we now only have 40 questions. So we now have more time and less questions. That's Fantastic news. So we're looking at 1.75 minutes per question. That's a 39% increase in minutes per question. Usually I would see test takers say, math is a subject I struggled to finish in the time limit. So now you have 10 more minutes and less questions. That is very exciting. Now, if we look at social studies, this one you got a lot more time with 391. So we moved from 35 minutes to 50 minutes, and our number of questions stay about the same. You lost one. So that's still a 47% increase in minutes per question. Now let's look at science. We went from 40 minutes to 55 minutes. So you got 15 more minutes, and we dropped the number of questions by 7. We went from 52 to 45. So we see a 59% increase in the minutes per question for science. That's really exciting. Now, fine arts, health, and PE did not change that much. We went from 40, and actually our time went down on that one to 35 minutes, but you went down a significant number of questions, down from 52 to 40. And so we still see an increase in minutes per question. This is really exciting. What I want you to notice is 391 is more friendly for the test taker. This is key because you get more time in many cases and less questions in those more difficult subjects that a lot of you've been struggling with. So I think a lot of you are going to find this really exciting. Now let's move on and let's talk about how does this affect me? I want to talk about a couple of different scenarios to try to answer some of your questions. Some of you have asked, well, what if I've already attempted 291? There's going to be an overlap of about a year between 291 and 391. And that overlap is for people who've already attempted 291 prior to January 1st of 21. So if you attempted this prior to January 1st of 21 and you did not pass all parts, but you passed some, you can still go back and retake that sub-test that you still have not passed. So it's to help prevent candidates getting stuck in that transition. So if you didn't pass science and social studies, you can go back and still take those under 291. Now, if you are one of those people who've taken 291 5 times and you have failed all 5 times, so you've hit your limit of test attempts, there is some great news. You can transition to 391 and get 5 full attempts. So if you are struggling with 291 and you did not get it passed before you ran out of attempts, you can switch to 391 and you get 5 full attempts. We just found that out from TEA, and that is exciting news. Now, a lot of people have asked, well, do I need to hurry up and take and pass the 291 so I don't have to take the STR? Guys, these have nothing to do with each other. I know they're related because the STR was once part of this exam, but the people who have to take the STR are those who got their standard certificate after January 1st of 2021. So that means standard certificate is you've completed your program, all requirements of your program. You've taken and passed all tests. Your program has recommended you for certification, and you have a certificate from TEA saying you are a standard certified TExES teacher with your name on it. If you are in your intern year in an alternative certification program, you've not completed your program. If you don't graduate till May, you have not completed your program. So yes, you will be taking the STR exam. Now, if you are a December graduate and you're going to have completed your program requirements, you're going to have passed all your exams, and you're going to have that certificate issued before 1/21/21 or 1/1/21, then no, you will not have to take the STR. So here's what I want you to understand. Do not rush to take the 291 so you can avoid taking the STR, because that's probably not going to work out unless you're graduating in December. Okay. So if you're not graduating till May or sometime after January, or you're an intern and not completing your program, your intern year till May, you're going to have to take STR, whether you take 291 or 391. So they do not directly impact which one you have to take. Okay. So I want to talk about study and preparation time for just a moment. Not much changes here because you are actually studying for the STR competencies within the core subjects. They're just now their own test. So you just have to study for those as their own test, and you're still going to have to allow plenty of time to study for that core subjects. Now, one thing I do want to note is when you're looking at preparation materials, you're going to want to look for preparation materials that have updated to match 391 if you're going to take 391, okay? But the time you need to spend probably won't change that much. It's just separated out. The passing scores stayed the same. So you still have to get those same scale scores that you did on 291 and 391. You are going to need a study plan. So once you figure that out, study plan, you are ready to go. If you do not know how to make a study plan, go check out my effective cramming video on YouTube, and it will walk you through how to make a study plan, either for STR, Core Subjects 291 or 391, or PPR, or any other exam you're taking. All right. Now let's look at what do we recommend at 240 Tutoring. Here's what I'm going to tell you and what we're going to tell you at 241. I can't put enough stars by this. Take 391. There's lots of advantages. The first one, and probably the biggest one, is the number of questions and timing. Remember, we said that was much more test taker friendly. You get more time on some of those harder subjects and you get less questions. That's just win-win. Many of you are going to have to take the STR in the spring. And if that's you and your program's not requiring you to take 291, I would hold off and take 391. Because if you take 291 now, you're going to be tested on STR as part of that. And then you're still going to have to take STR in the spring. So if you can wait, if your program's not requiring you to take 291, I would wait and take 391 and STR in the spring to eliminate double dipping of content. Some of you have asked about EC through 3 as an option. If you switch to EC through 3, it's the same thing as it was if you were EC through 6 under 291. Here's what I caution about EC through 3. It's a great option if you know you only want to teach primary grades, but if you're really anxious about getting that first job, just know that EC through 6 is more marketable. Principals like to see teachers who can teach a variety of grade levels and subjects, okay? So in both cases, I'm going to say it again, you need to prepare adequately and develop a study plan using a trusted resource. And if you are taking 391, make sure that resource is updated to match 391 and that they have a component for STR because you're going to need both of those. Now, of course, we're here to support you. If you need study guides, go to 240tutoring.com/study guides and you will find our core subject study guide. Now, great news, our updated 391 study guide comes out November 2nd. So mark that, it's just a few weeks away, November 2nd, our EC through 6 will be updated for 391. So don't go start 291 this week because it's going to change pretty quickly. If you haven't started using our study guide, I'd just wait till November 2nd to start. If you have and you're taking 291, just proceed as normal. Nothing changes for you. If you want some free resources, you can check us out at 240tutoring.com/resources. And of course, you can follow us on Facebook and YouTube. I have lots of videos in both those places posted to help you prepare for your exam. Now, I hope this has helped you understand what's expected from 391 versus 291. If you have any questions, please drop those right here in the comments. I'm in our Facebook group and on our Facebook page frequently, and we will answer those for you. We want to be here to clarify. I am happy to help in any way I can, and I wish you the best of luck as you prepare for your exams. Again, I'm Dr. Kristy Mulkey with 240 Tutoring, and I'll see you next time.